For 7 years, I chased Miles, and tonight I finally decide to quit. After he abandons me once more for the woman branded on his heart, I delete every last way to reach him. He stands overnight under my balcony, eyes bloodshot. Hannah, stop this. Come home with me. I nod toward the new owner of the mansion behind me. Let me introduce my fiancé. He barks out a cold laugh. Picked a random guy to piss me off? Only when his business rival greets me with a respectful Mrs. Sterling does panic flicker in his eyes. In the private dining room, the scarlet candles burn down and are replaced, again and again. Yuqian, have you arrived? No answer. I reopen WhatsApp. The screen is still filled with the messages I sent one after another. I know exactly where he is. Or rather, I know who is, once again, keeping him away. Aurora. The untouchable white moonlight fixed over Miles's heart. Even after she crossed Blair Ocean and married another man, one transatlantic call still sends Miles racing to her side, abandoning everything here. In the past it was a fever, a twisted ankle, a bad mood. This time the reason is weightier. She is newly divorced, alone, in need of solace from Blair's old friend. How perfectly justified. And what am I? Blair's old friend who accompanied him from obscurity to industry darling? Or the shadow he grew used to finding whenever he turned around, present for 7 years yet never truly seen? The restaurant manager walks over. Ms. Vance, shall we box up the birthday cake? Or shall we wait a bit longer for Mr. Sterling? No need. Share the cake with the staff. You've all worked hard. The manager nods and retreats. I sit in the center of the cavernous room, staring at the champagne I chose because he always praised it, still more than half the bottle left. I used to believe wine tasted better when shared with him, that life only sparkled with him in it. Now I discover the quiet of drinking alone feels unexpectedly pleasant. I open our WhatsApp thread. Most conversations are my long paragraphs punctuated by his brief, delayed replies. Scrolling back to the very first exchange, I see the timid line I typed 7 years ago. Senior, I have a question about tomorrow's assignment. 7 years. How many 7-year stretches does a woman get? I once believed dripping water could pierce stone, that eventually a heart would warm. I stayed up with him to polish bids, rushed out at midnight for medicine, learned to simmer his favorite soup, memorized every habit and preference. The early chaos of his startup, banquet hall toasts, every stress-line night, there I was, beside him. Even his friends joke that I'm Mr. Sterling's universal assistant. He responds with a faint smile, neither confirming nor denying. I thought time would grant me Blair's answer. Even if he merely grew comfortable with my devotion, I told myself I'd accept it gladly. But Aurora is a thorn, forever reminding me, habit is not love, dependence is not choice. I am a convenient replacement wielded whenever he needs comfort. Today I turn 30, the deadline I set for myself. If by this day he still refuses to offer a future, this 7-year one-woman show must lower its curtain. My phone vibrates, a name flashes onto the screen. Not Miles, Aurora. Hannah? Sorry to call so late. Yuqian fell asleep here. You know how it is, I just got divorced, I'm a mess. Each syllable is Blair's invisible blade, twisting. She doesn't even need to flaunt, a level statement is enough to humiliate. See? Your milestone means nothing beside one of my tears, one of my laments. It's fine. Let him rest. Hannah, you're so understanding. It's a blessing Yuqian has a friend like you. Aurora sighs. The word friend is underscored. After the call ends, I lift the half-full champagne bottle and, without a glass, drink every drop. I open my contacts and erase Miles, number, WhatsApp, Instagram, deleted, blocked. The banquet hall is empty, guests long gone, only me left. I step outside, skip the valet, and wander the streets. My phone rings, unknown number. I let it die unanswered. A text arrives seconds later from the same digits. Hannah? What the hell? Why'd you block me? Pick up. I can picture his face, impatient, certain he deserves Blair's answer, assuming this is another tantrum he'll defuse with 2 sentences, if that counts as soothing. I ignore it and blacklist that number as well. Opening my banking and brokerage apps, I tally every dollar I've earned. Besides my salary, side design gigs and small investments have left me far from rich yet more than comfortable. I file my PTO request and start browsing openings at rival firms. On the third morning, I meet a realtor and, without hesitation, rent a quiet loft farther from downtown. The move begins that afternoon. Most of my belongings are still at his condo, nothing but clothes and toiletries, not worth retrieving. On the seventh day, as I sun myself on the new balcony, the landline rings, building management. Ms. Vance, a Mr. Sterling has waited downstairs for hours. Shall we? I knew this moment would come, I merely didn't expect it so soon. I don't know any Mr. Sterling. If he's disturbing residents, please follow your protocols. I end the call and draw the curtains against the climbing sun. Night falls, a text from a fresh number glows on my screen. Hannah, let's talk. Delete, block. 2 weekends after the move, I'm revising blueprints on my laptop when the doorbell sounds. Through the peephole I see a face both familiar yet suddenly foreign, Miles. He looks haggard, jaw stubbled, his normally crisp shirt rumpled. I open the door just wide enough to meet his eyes. How did you find this place? Hannah, haven't you played long enough? Blocking me everywhere, what exactly do you want? I almost laugh. Even now he believes this is petulance. What do I want? Miles, I want nothing. I simply don't want to continue. Because I missed one birthday dinner? Aurora just got divorced, she was falling apart. Could I ignore her? When did you become so unreasonable? Unreasonable. The irony is majestic. Right, I'm unreasonable. Please leave, don't let my lack of reason keep you from comforting someone more deserving. I start to close the door, he slaps a hand against it. Hannah! Don't do this, come back with me. Miles, we are finished. I lift my gaze and, for the first time, look straight at him without anger, without expectation, without anything at all. He seemed to be seeing that look in my eyes for the first time. He froze, and the hand braced against the door loosened. Right then the man in the living room walked over and slid Blair's arm lightly around my shoulders. Miles's gaze snapped tight, fixing on the hand resting on me, then lifting to the man's face. The stranger was a little taller, dressed in casual home clothes, posture straight as a blade. Hannah, friend of yours? He asked first. I leaned into him naturally. This is Miles. Yuqian, this is Adrian, my fiancé. Fiancé? Miles's voice cracked with sarcasm and barely caged fury. Hannah, you're hiring actors now just to spite me? He slammed the door as he left. The last look he gave me was a mix of disbelieving rage and the raw humiliation of someone utterly shamed. I knew he wouldn't believe it. A man that proud could never accept that the woman who'd followed him for 7 years had suddenly fallen into someone else's arms. Adrian's hand patted my shoulder. You okay? I'm fine. Thanks, Morgan. That brief leaning in and intimacy had been scripted between us, a scene designed to cut Miles's last thread of hope. Adrian was the landlord of my new loft. We'd met at Blair Industry Mixer. He knew my situation and offered a mutually beneficial arrangement. He needed a convincing shield against his family's matchmaking pressure, and I needed a clean severance from my past. Clear boundaries, explicit contract. He'd even wired me a design consulting fee in advance, styling me as his fiancée to make the performance believable. I was grateful for the rescue. Adrian went back to the living room sofa. He'll probably dig around, into me, this apartment, our so-called relationship. Let him. All he'll find is the truth he refuses to believe. Adrian glanced up. You're cooler than I expected. Cool? Maybe just dead inside. I smiled weakly. Miles didn't come back in the following days, but I knew his pride in methods, he wouldn't let it go. A week later Josie asked if Miles and I were really finished. She said his temper had turned volcanic and he was quietly pulling strings, investigating something. He'd even sought out Aurora. The talk ended in a blow-up. A falling out with Aurora? That surprised me. Josie tentatively probed how I'd met Adrian, whether there'd been some misunderstanding with Miles. I told her there was no misunderstanding, only new lives for each of us. She took the hint and dropped it. I knew exactly what Miles was digging for. Adrian's background. Too bad the resume was pristine: elite overseas schools, star venture capitalist, sizable assets, low-key private life. As for us, there were financial transfers, neighbor sightings of us coming and going together. If Miles dug deeper, he might even uncover Adrian pulling favors to clear a thorny licensing issue for my new employer, another clause in our deal. From Miles's angle, it would look as if I'd scrambled up a higher branch and betrayed him. Let him think so. Hate is easier to quit than love. I thought the storm would subside once his search turned up nothing new. Then came the bidding summit. A government flagship project, large scale, every major player in the field was competing. My design firm was partnered with one bidder, and as lead designer I had to present our proposal. I knew Miles's company was among the bidders, but never expected him to appear in person. Or Adrian. He wasn't there as a bidder but as a special advisor to the review committee. While prepping backstage, I heard the commotion up front. Peeking through the curtain, I saw Miles stride in with his team, suited to kill, still the center of gravity. His gaze swept the room and locked on the review table. Adrian sat there, talking quietly with another expert in charcoal gray wool that fit him like armor among the panel. The session unfolded on schedule. When it was my turn to present, I focused on our concept and strengths. Applause followed my bow. Walking past the reviewers, I let my eyes flick toward Adrian. He was watching me, encouragement and approval in his gaze. Just then a wiry man in his 40s, sharp-eyed, cut across the aisle straight for Adrian. I recognized him, Vice President of Horizon, the toughest rival Miles feared, surnamed Zhao, infamous for playing dirty. "Morgan, didn't expect to see you here," he greeted Adrian with a respectful grin. "Our CEO asked me to send his regards." Adrian smiled back. "Row in." Zhao's eyes slid to me, his smile warming. "And this must be Ms. Vance?" Talent and poise, Morgan is a lucky man. The word Mrs. crashed into the room like a boulder dropped in still water. I looked at Adrian. His expression didn't flicker, he simply reached for my hand. "Jamie flatters us." His palm was warm, steady, quieting my pulse. I managed a smile. "You're too kind, Jamie." After a few more pleasantries he left. Miles had taken in every second. I didn't turn, but I could feel his stare drilling holes between my shoulder blades. Adrian motioned for me to return to my seat. Head down, I walked as evenly as I could. I heard almost nothing of the rest of the bids, that glare burned against my back. When the convention center began to empty, Adrian was surrounded by reviewers and acquaintances. I packed up, hoping to slip out unseen. Near the side exit a tall frame blocked me. "Miles." "Mrs.? Why the hell would Zhao Qin call you that? Who he is, why he calls me what he does, what does it have to do with you?" "Nothing to do with me?" The words hit a nerve. He stepped closer, furious. 7 years, Hannah, and you say it's nothing to me? What game are you playing? Revenge? Game? Revenge? Miles, you overrate yourself. I'm not some teenager with time for emotional tug-of-war anymore. That's all. As for Adrian... I paused. He's the man I chose to spend the rest of my life with. Spend the rest of your life with? Miles snorted as though he'd just heard the best joke on earth. Hannah, 7 years. When my stomach hurt, who stayed up all night? When I got drunk, who took care of me again and again? I cut him off. Miles, every one of those kindnesses was something I gave of my own free will. Now I'm no longer willing. When I finished, I started to walk past him. Hannah! Miles seized my wrist. Don't go. Let's talk. Aurora and I really are nothing. From now on I won't. Let go. I yanked hard. His grip only tightened. Adrian stepped over, clamped 2 fingers round Miles's wrist. The pressure looked mild, yet Miles yelped and released me. Adrian drew me half a step behind him, a posture of complete protection. "Mr. Sterling, watch yourself. My fiancé dislikes being harassed by irrelevant men." Miles glared at the way Adrian shielded me. He jabbed a furious finger. "You'd better watch your back." Adrian ignored him, slipping Blair's arm around my shoulders. "Let's go," he murmured. I walked out with Adrian, step by step until we cleared the convention center doors. There he let go, instantly restoring his usual cool distance. "Sorry, the situation required it," he explained. "I'm the one who should apologize. I dragged you into this again. You spoke perfectly back there." Still, Miles won't give up easily. The blow today was huge for him. "I know. When the soldiers come, the general will block them. When the flood rises, the earth will dam it." A few nights later my phone vibrated like Blair's angry cicada, Aurora calling. The call flashed past midnight. I hesitated, then answered. "Hannah." Aurora's voice was hoarse, as if she'd been crying. "Help me. Save Yuqian. Miss Blair, Miles and I are no longer anything to each other. His affairs have nothing to do with me." "No. You can help." Aurora sobbed louder, almost incoherent. "Ever since that bidding summit he's been drinking. He binged until his stomach bled. He's at St. Gabriel's Hospital. He keeps interrogating me about why I divorced. He's investigating my ex, our settlement, and asking when you met Adrian, whether you two had already." She gulped air. "He refuses to believe you're real. He thinks I'm in cahoots with you, that you schemed to hook Adrian. Please tell him it's fake, that you only wanted to spite him. Give him back to me, please?" Listening to her weeping plea, I felt nothing, only absurdity. "Miss Blair, whatever Adrian and I are, real or fake, is none of your business. That is my choice. The state Miles is in now is his own problem. I have no duty to answer for his feelings or behavior. Saying give him back is laughable. He was never mine to return." The whimpering on the other end froze. I continued. "Instead of begging me, you'd better think how you'll face Miles's questions. What exactly happened between you that he still doesn't know, or that you hope he never finds out?" Aurora's crying stopped dead. Miles's reaction was wilder than I'd foreseen. Adrian's identity, plus Jamie's accidental Mrs. Cross, had shattered his world. He couldn't accept that I'd betrayed him, let alone that I could climb to someone on Adrian's level. Yet his frenzy didn't stay private. He aimed straight at Adrian. First, several rising tech projects Adrian favored were suddenly hit by suicidal overbids from Miles's company, Clear Scorched Earth Tactics. Next, approvals for a high-end medlab Adrian was backing stalled at every regulatory desk. "Plenty of little moves," Adrian murmured, reviewing the files in his study. "He seems desperate to prove something by hurting me, or to force you out into the open." A wave of weariness washed over me. "I'm sorry. I've dragged you down with me." This transaction was generating more fallout than I'd bargained for. Adrian shook his head. "Nothing out of the ordinary, business as usual thuggery. He's just frantic. Still, watch your own company." His warning proved prophetic. The design firm I'd recently joined was bidding for Riverdale's new Civic Cultural Plaza. As a core team member, I'd poured my soul into the blueprints. 48 hours before the final submission, our servers suffered a pinpoint cyber breach. Key blueprints and data were encrypted and locked. IT fought around the clock, yet the delay shoved us to the bottom of the review ladder. Internal audits, plus quiet back-channel gossip, kept circling back to Miles. He wasn't on the front line, but a certain security contractor linked to him had been unusually active. The project director slammed the conference table, swearing like a sailor. Though no one blamed me outright, whispers trailed me. After all, I'd been romantically linked to Miles, and I led the design. By day I battled work headaches, by night I worried which direction his next knife would come from. Sleep came only with sleeping pills, and only for a few hours. Adrian noticed. Without asking questions, he instructed the housekeeper to brew calming broths each evening. I assumed the tug-of-war would drag on, and even considered quitting the city to escape Miles, when Blair's unexpected twist arrived. One afternoon Adrian returned ahead of schedule, carrying a slim folder. "Hannah, there's something you have to know." He set it on the coffee table, his gaze conflicted. "It concerns Miles, and possibly something from your own past." My heart lurched. "What is it?" I asked Blair's overseas investigator friend to dig into Miles's background, see what he might try next. He found something else. Adrian sat opposite me and tapped the folder. "Read first." I opened it. Background checks, several pages of bank transfer records, a few old photos. 7 years ago Miles's startup had faced its worst cash crisis, teetering on bankruptcy. At that precise moment a modest yet life-saving sum had arrived in several transfers from Blair's overseas account. The holder's name, Evelyn, identical to my mother's. My mother had died while I was in high school. The photos, grainy and telephoto, showed a younger Miles meeting a woman in a cafe. The woman was Aurora's mother. The timestamp was days before those mysterious transfers. I stared blankly, mind wiped clean. How had my mother ever crossed paths with Miles? Why had she secretly saved his company? And what role had Aurora's mother played? "Hannah?" Adrian's voice pulled me back to the present. Miles probably always assumed it was Aurora, or her family, who saved him at the last minute, so the way he protects and gives to Aurora feels almost obsessive. It may not be pure love, it could be tangled up with a need to repay a debt. Of course, the deeper details, like why your mother wired the money, what part Aurora's mother played, or how much Miles actually knew, still need to be confirmed. But at the very least, this offers a completely different lens through which to view Miles's attitude toward Aurora, and toward you. I pressed my palms to my face, inhaled, and replayed the past frame by frame inside my head. "What do you plan to do?" Adrian asked. "Find out the full truth first." "Could your friend keep digging?" "I'll cover the cost." Adrian nodded. "He can. And don't worry about the expense, this stopped being just your fight the moment Miles's latest attacks hit my portfolio." His meaning hung in the air. Miles's recent hostile moves had crossed into Adrian's territory as well. Keep dodging and we would only invite bigger blows. A few days later, Blair's anonymous email landed in Miles's private inbox. Someone also accidentally left a press clipping on his assistant's desk, a story about Aurora's ex-husband sentenced abroad for fraud and embezzlement, plus proof that Aurora had hurried assets overseas right before the divorce. I wanted to see what Miles would do if the saint in his memory suddenly looked less pristine and the origin of that life-saving favor became murky. Predictably, the rampage from Miles's camp screeched to a halt. The sniping at Adrian's project stopped, the inexplicable roadblocks at my own firm melted away. A week later, I left the office at dusk and headed back to Adrian's condo. The elevator doors parted, and I found someone curled up in front of the unit. Miles. He looked wrecked. Hair uncombed, beard scraggly, reeking of whiskey, Blair's empty bottle still clutched in one fist. When he heard footsteps he tried to stand, wobbled, and slid back down, spine against the door. He tilted his head, lips trembling. "Hannah, that money, was it you?" His voice was sandpaper, the smell of alcohol rolled out with every syllable. I didn't answer right away. This was the man I'd loved, and chased, for 7 years, now sprawled like a stray dog outside my door. Surprisingly, I felt neither vindication nor pity, only a dull ache. "What money?" I feigned ignorance. 7 years ago, Blair's anonymous wire. The sender's name was Evelyn, your mother. "Hannah, was it you? Did you save me?" I stared at him in silence. So he really hadn't known. The irony was exquisite. What difference does yes or no make? I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He muttered like a child repeating Blair's apology. If you'd only looked into it earlier. Earlier? I cut in. Miles, be honest, in these 7 years, was there a single moment when you actually wanted to understand me? That's not true. I feel. A brittle laugh escaped me. Feel what? Habit? Dependency? The comfort of knowing I'd never leave? It's not like that. Hannah, listen. He reached for the hem of my coat. I stepped back, out of range. There's nothing left to say. Whoever sent that money no longer matters. What matters is that I've walked away. Please don't come back. I turned to unlock the door. Hannah! Don't go! He dropped to his knees with a thud. I was wrong. I see it now. That so-called debt blinded me. Give me one more chance, please. He yanked a small velvet box from his pocket and flipped it open. Inside was the same diamond I'd worn for 2 years, the one I'd slid off my finger the day I chose myself and returned to him. I swear, no Aurora, no one else, only you. Let's get married. I'll give you everything, just come back. The ring looked absurd under the hallway lights, more a slap than a promise. Whether this epiphany was real remorse, wounded pride, or sheer panic over losing a constant, I no longer cared to untangle. Keep the ring. It was never really mine. Miles lunged, trying to wedge his shoulder against the door so I couldn't close it. Just then Adrian stepped off the elevator. He took in the scene, Miles kneeling, disheveled, blocking my path. He didn't rush inside. Instead he spoke to Miles, voice calm but edged with steel. Love takes 2 people. You can't force it. You're embarrassing her and degrading yourself. Walk away with whatever dignity you have left. Dignity? Miles's eyes, bloodshot, snapped to Adrian. You swept in the moment I stumbled. If I hadn't, Hannah still wouldn't crawl back to you. Your problems were never about me, they're about the 2 of you. Adrian cut in. The words landed like the final pebble that triggers Blair avalanche. Miles crumpled, limp, against the wall. Adrian ignored him, ushered me inside, and locked the door. We sat in silence for a long while. The investigation turned up something new, Adrian finally said. My friend located a former teller who handled the wire. She remembers a frantic woman insisting on anonymity, but the woman let slip that the young CEO receiving the funds was her old friend's son. Her old friend's son? My pulse stuttered. I looked sharply at Adrian. Also, Aurora's mother and yours were college classmates. They had a bitter falling out senior year and never spoke again until a secret meeting a few years before your mother died. Classmates? Mom had never once mentioned Aurora's mother. What had torn them apart? And Miles's father, was he the old friend? What history bound our parents together? Morgan, I need the truth. Help me find it. I will. I threw myself into the new Cultural Plaza project. The revised blueprints flew through the second review, the client raved, and my firm landed the landmark build. Industry blogs started dropping my name, and offers began arriving without me chasing them. My arrangement with Adrian continued on its unspoken tightrope. We still shared the condo. He brought home limited edition desserts he thought I'd like. I left a lamp on in the living room when he worked late. Neither of us tested the boundary we'd drawn, but the tree wanted stillness while the wind refused to cease. Aurora came knocking. Hannah, we need to talk, she announced, voice clipped. Not wanting Blair audience outside the office, I steered her to a private booth in the cafe next door. The instant we sat, she slid a document across the table, a photocopy of a property deed of gift, donor, Miles, donee, Aurora, asset, a prime downtown loft, date, a little over 6 months ago. See? Yuxian's heart always had room for me. She lifted her chin, scrabbling for the old hauteur. This loft was mine long before you ever appeared. I simply decided to collect it. I skimmed the page, feeling nothing, except Blair urge to laugh. So? Did you come today just to show off your trophy? My composure caught Aurora off guard. She recovered with a cold laugh. I know you've latched onto Adrian and think that erases every slight. Don't celebrate yet. The Cross family tree has roots older than this city. Do you honestly believe they'll welcome someone with your background? She leaned in, voice low. Hannah, let's make a deal. Persuade Miles to come back to me and I'll wire you enough to disappear for years. Or walk away from Adrian and leave Riverdale altogether. I swear I won't chase you. Refuse. I don't mind telling the Cross elders exactly how you threw yourself at Miles, how you clung to him for 7 humiliating years. The moment they hear you once begged another man to love you, what will they think? I watched her as if she were a tedious farce, still wielding yesterday's weapons. Once she had been the thorn I couldn't dig out, the white moonlight Miles hung in his sky. Now she was only a pitiful woman with Blair's ugly face. Finished? Do whatever you want. Miles and I are square, his life is no longer my concern. Why he vanished overnight, you really don't know. Aurora's expression faltered. What are you implying? I may know a little more than you think. I hear your ex-husband's creditors are sniffing around again. I turned and walked away, leaving her alone at the table. A clown on a tightrope, hardly worth fearing. Still, her poison wasn't totally harmless. Soon the Cross family pressure arrived, polite but immovable. It bypassed me and landed on Adrian in the form of Blair's unavoidable family dinner, and, naturally, I accompanied him as his fiancée. The banquet filled a discreetly lavish estate outside the city. Antiquity and power seeped from the stone, every guest carried a legend. Adrian's parents radiated authority, especially his mother, whose questions about my lineage, education, and past slipped through smiles like silk-threaded blades. Midway through the meal, a tipsy great-uncle half-joked, Adrian, a young man is allowed a few romantic misfires, but once you enter this family, sever the loose ends, eh? The words hung in the air. Adrian's father remained impassive, his mother's smile cooled a degree. Adrian came to my side and took my hand. Great-uncle is right. Some things should be spoken clearly tonight. I know Hannah's past better than anyone. The woman I see is honest, courageous. Her talent and character match every standard I have for a life partner. As for idle gossip, let's leave it outside the family gate. The great-uncle gave Blair an embarrassed chuckle and sat back. Adrian's father studied his son, then me, face unreadable, finally raising his glass. A man who knows his own mind is a comfort. Ms. Vance, welcome. A storm dispersed in 3 sentences. We rode home in silence. He drove, I watched the city glide past in neon rivers. His declaration had lodged, warm and startling, beneath my ribs. Thank you, for earlier. I only told the truth. You deserve to be. You deserve to be. 3 feather-light words that landed like stones. In 7 years beside Miles I had never once heard anything close. About the agreement. I began, hesitant. The contract stands. If you feel uneasy, or choose otherwise, you can end it any time. My thoughts tangled, I nodded and said no more. Days slid forward. Between Adrian and me Blair's unspoken understanding deepened. We screened old movies, argued over novels, attempted weekend recipes, flour on the ceiling, laughter echoing down the loft hallway. Just when Miles had almost faded, he returned, spectacularly uninvited. A Riverview charity auction. Adrian and I worked the ballroom, then I slipped outside for air on the terrace. Miles stepped from the shadows, thinner, cheekbones sharp. Hannah, can we talk? I nodded. I went to Switzerland, not to hide, just to find facts. About the money, about Aurora's mother, about our parents. The wire was indeed sent anonymously by your mother. My father had been her first love, their families tore them apart. Later his company collapsed, depression took him, and she carried the guilt. When she learned I was repeating his crash, she reached out. A rueful smile. Soapy, right? Aurora's mother hated yours, knew about the transfer, and fed me the lie that her family was my savior. He met my eyes, voice layered with apology. Hannah, I'm sorry. His calm candor stirred something softer than anger. Resentment, forgiveness, both feel finished. Yes. Finished. A light, almost weightless smile touched his mouth. Seeing you happy is enough. Adrian's a better man than I'll ever be. Be happy, truly. He lifted his glass, drained it, and walked away. This time the curtain fell without drama. Weeks later, Adrian placed a brittle diary in my hands, my mother's handwriting. Page after page told of her youthful love with Miles's father, the family's refusal, their parting, her long ache when she learned of his decline. I closed the leather cover, tears slipping free. Adrian offered a tissue, then folded me against his chest. I clung to him, greedy for the heat of his body. He held tighter, lips at my ear. The contract is void. I want to renew, for life. Will you? Eyes shut, I rose on tiptoe, pressed my burning cheek to his neck, and answered, yes. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. See you next time.